Good morning, guys. Good morning. And here we are. Oh boy, hearty. Good morning this morning. That's good. And we're going to continue our study this morning with What is a Man? And we're in week number 9. And right now in this study, we are, and again, I've said this many times, you cannot see the text on the screen. This screen represents all of the actions of Jacob, the texts that have to do with Jacob from the book of Genesis. And we are now, the highlighted area, we're now at this crossover between Jacob's first half of life and second half of life. We're just taking a few weeks here because this is such a critical, I'm calling it a crossover. You know, we're right in the middle of it, and we're analyzing what are the components of this crossover from the life of Jacob, and hopefully making correlation to our own lives. Here is the chart that the diagram that we've been working from for weeks now. We are right at this point right here. First half of life, we've talked about that, characterized by the word ascent. And then there's this crossover piece, and as we move into the next few weeks, we'll be analyzing this section right here as life begins to push in. But there's this crossover that we're looking at right now, and the key verse is verse 31 of chapter 31 of Genesis. Jacob admits his fear, and we've got a few weeks to look at this. Hey, Alan. A few weeks to look at this now, and so we're not really asking the question, why does Mike think that the admission of fear is this crossover, indicates this crossover in his life? It is in regard much about fear, because I think fear is a key motivating component that we're not even aware of. But it's the release of control. It's what this action in the text depicts, and it is Jacob's the first time that we're able to see him releasing control in a significant time. Just think about putting yourself in his sandals for a moment, where here he is, he's run, he's fled. His father-in-law traces him, tracks him down, and then he admits this fear in front of his father-in-law, in front of his family. It was quite an admission, and in my mind, that is a great indicator of a man who has moved into a new phase of life, this crossover. So that's what we're talking about. I introduced last week this box, which I've used in a number of different ways, but this box, and correlating this crossover with 3 key terms. The 3 key terms are awareness, and we could also plug in there the word growth, growth as a human being, and then the correlation of control or release of control, and then this idea last week called necessary limit. And necessary limit is the we could call it a catalyst, we could call it a opportunity. Necessary limit is where we become aware of our environment, of our situation, and the light bulb goes on. For some reason, we as human beings need limits, or producing pain, if you want to call it pain. We need these things in order to get our attention. And that's from my perspective. So the idea of the box is life happens in a box. The box is the sum total of our experiences and observations as a human being at any given time in our life. And it's from my perspective, guys, that we tend to stay in the box just moving about inside this box with really no true growth or expansion unless we reach a necessary limit. So we keep bouncing around inside the box. And we rearrange the furniture, but we don't really grow as a human being. Again, guys, this is from my perspective. And so what causes us to move outside of this box is the word trust. And we can correlate the term, release of control. I see trust and release of control, or faith, the biblical terms of trust or faith, synonymous. That when we are trusting, when we put ourselves in a place of trust or faith, exercising faith, it necessitates a release of control. And it is that action, that the only action that will get us outside of that box. When I release control to a point that I am basically opening up my arms and saying, I've got to be caught. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, and I'm letting go of the rope. That is what, we know the scriptures say that God will catch us and that He is there, but none of us really know until we release control. It's all theory, and by the exercise of that faith is how we learn and how we grow. That's the whole idea. So growth, in my mind, is not about conquering higher mountains and doing greater things. On the contrary, the way we grow as human beings is through the release of control and allowing ourselves to be conquered by greater and greater powers that overcome us. Do you see what I'm saying? That is what the second half of life is about. We get that. And we start then living within that realm, not perfect, but it's a huge opportunity. And it takes years, unfortunately, because of the nature of our humanness, to get that. So again, guys, this is again from my perspective. So 3 key terms we talked about. Awareness has a direct correlation to the release of control, and necessary limit is what gives us the opportunity to experience that. Necessary limit would be we find ourselves bumped up against the side of the box, and we go, gee, I was just here. Maybe there's something more outside this box. And the bumping around inside the box becomes, for the first time, uncomfortable. And I go, gee, why am I here? I want to be in a different place. And that doorway is through here, through trust. And so what happens is we move through here, exercise trust. The trust overtakes the fears and all of the actions inside here, depicted by what the model is doing now. It's still present, but it has less power. So trust in my mind overpowers the fear that we experience as we move towards the exit of that doorway, the threshold of fear. So there's the model. As we exercise trust, it overtakes and is more powerful than the fear that is present within our lives. And then we find ourselves, this is all what we talked about last year, we find ourselves moving. We were here, but now our box has grown. We have truly grown as a human being in the image of God. And now we find ourselves in a much larger place, meaning a place of much greater awareness of my world around me, greater awareness of how my actions affect those around me, greater awareness to see and perception into the way things really are, not our constructs that we have created in our own heads. And it gives us then opportunity to repeat the whole process once again. Yeah. Life is in a box, and that box grows as we release control. And as a result, our awareness increases. So what I'd like you guys to do, I wanted to just take 10 minutes and kind of review where we were last week. And I'd like you to spend the rest of your time, because you've been introduced this now. This is our second week, and last week we'll be looking at this. But I'd like for you guys to reflect upon these three ideas. And the three ideas are, awareness, or the word growth, and the correlating the release of control in your own life to your own growth and awareness. And what was the catalyst, or what were the catalysts in your life, the necessary limits that put you into that place to move, to experience growth through this model. And so the question is, in what way, if any, I'll give you that, has trust, there's that word, and I'm looking at trust as release of control. In what way has trust contributed to your growth as a human being, created in the image of God? Now, I'm very careful on how I'm wording this. I could have put, in what way has trust contributed to your growth as a Christian? I didn't want to break that out, because I want us to look at growth as a human being being made in the image of God. As we release control, and from my perspective, once again, as we release control, we are becoming more human, more alive, more in the sense of who God created us to be. And so, if you think about that, I'd like you to take some time. I will join, I'm going to break this down because I've got to get to the airport, but I'm going to join one of the groups just for a short time, and then I've got to skedaddle. So we've got a lot of time this morning, just have some fun with it. And Bob, next week, well, he's got the key and he'll be here next week. I'll be gone next week, but then back. So you're going to be talking about the advantage of superlapsarianism over
something like that.
All righty.
Teaser of some sort.
All righty. All right. Well, I'll leave this up here for a minute, but then we'll go on. So have some fun with this.